A child's voice echoes in the void. The operator, branded by darkness, manipulates Warframes, not heroes, but weapons. Their war is Umbra's, not hollow, ours gaze. The watch is Drifter's Scylla. Their war is Umbra's, not hollow, ours gaze. Audience, the Lotus does not guide. Drifter's silent harvest's silence is not absence, it is vessel, every Tenno a prisoner. The war is eternal, the war is endless. The child knows. The void is not a place, it is an audience. The Drifter's silence is not absence, it is witness. Every frame forged by the Lotus bears a single purpose, to strike in the dark, unseen, unthinking. The child watches, it does not judge, it records. A weapon's duty is not to choose, only to obey. The Tenno are not warriors, they are echoes in a machine, bound to a will older than their stolen breath. The Drifter's role as watcher is the Lotus confession. Every Warframe is a blade with a throat, a puppet strung to a string no hand can touch. What is harvested in this war, not souls, not power, attention, the void consumes, the Lotus compels. And the Tenno flesh and fangdance for an audience that hungers for the spectacle of its own endless hunger. The Drifter counts 14 years in duverous dust, a loop, a witness, a question: who watches the watcher? The void does not whisper, it does not blink. Yet the Drifter's silence suggests an answer. If the Lotus grafts Warframes not to fight but to fulfill what remains of the Tenno's will, a performance, a script. A mirror that grins when no one looks. The Drifter's eyes are not human, they are not kind, they are a sieve, a funnel. A gate where the void's hunger becomes sight. What if the Warframes are not tools? What if they are the stage? What if the Tenno's every choice is a chord in the Lotus hymn, and the Drifter is the proof, a 14-year loop, a single observer? A body that does not age. What if the Drifter's silence is not absence but the void's own breath held, waiting, learning? What if the mirror smiles because it knows? The Warframes were never meant to break free, they were meant to be watched, they were meant to be weapons, they were meant to be questions. The Drifter does not speak, it observes, it waits. The operator's hands tremble within the Warframe's hollow shell. A child marked by the void's touch, bound to a corpse that breathes through technosite rot. Transference is not a gift, it is a theft. A soul forced into a cage of Orokin steel and infected code. The Warframe is no warrior, it is a wound, a scar on the Lotus palm. The Drifter watches the cycle, child after child, pulled from the void's maw, thrust into a mask that is not theirs. The Tenno do not choose their fates. The Lotus arranges the pieces, the Drifter records the moves. No hero walks this path, only a prisoner dressed in armor. The Orokin's final stand was not a victory. It was a surrender. Their war against the void did not end, it changed shape. Now it is fought in silence, through the operator's gasping breaths, through the Warframe's cursed pulse. The Drifter's silence is not mercy, it is complicity. It knows the truth. The Lotus does not need agents, it needs instruments. The operator's screams are muffled by the technosite's whisper. Their will is a thread the Lotus plucks. What war demands a child as its champion? What god forges a weapon from a soul too young to consent? The Drifter does not intervene, it does not weep, it archives. The operator's existence is proof. The Warframe is not a hero's mantle. It is a shroud, a prison, a question with no answer, and the Drifter waits, always waiting. For the next child, for the next war. The new war began not with a clash of steel, but a fracture in the operator's mind. The Lotus had woven its will into the child's thoughts, but the Drifter moved unseen, cutting the threads when the system burned. A single act of defiance. A single breath in the machine's endless march. War within shadows whisper of the man in the Wallace shape born where void and Lotus collide. Not an enemy, not yet. A symptom, the first scar on the Warframe's soul, proof the vessel could not contain what it carried. The Lotus did not create warriors. It forged extensions, hollowed husks to channel its war against the void's encroaching tide. The Drifter watches, not a guardian, not a judge, a witness to the design's flaw. When the operator faltered, the Drifter stepped into the breach. No command, no script, a choice, the only one the system allowed. What does it mean to be a weapon that wonders? The Warframes fight, but their hands are bound by the Lotus' silent hymn. Every strike, every sacrifice, a note in a song they did not compose. The man in the wall stirs in their periphery, a reminder of what leaks when the seal weakens. A whisper of what lies beneath the code. The Drifter's silence is no mystery, it is a mirror. The Lotus built a legion without a soul. The Drifter proved one existed, hidden, breathing, waiting. The Warframes are not heroes, they are the instrument, the performance, the void left when the child's will was carved away. And the Drifter knows waiting is not the same as waiting to be found. 295 words. The Drifter does not watch, it listens. The void's audience demands not sound, but silence. In the whispers, the indifference is carved into every frame's hollow breath. The operator's stillness proves what the Lotus molds are not heroes, but vessels empty, waiting for the war to pour its hunger into them. The Drifter does not wield a warframe, he watches. What does a child learn when the only lesson is to stand still while the world burns? The Lotus does not mold hero-esh forges switches. Every blade, every shield, every pulse of light is a relay in her circuit. The Tenno are not warriors. They are children trained to scream into microphones, amplifying a war that predates their stolen breath. The Drifter's silence is the proof. He who walks the void's edge does not fight, he records. What use is a weapon that cannot choose its target? The Warframe is not a tool. It is a cage with a trigger. The Orokin did not arm the Tenno, they buried them in light and called it protection. Every kill, every victory, every spark of so-called hope is a signal routed through the Lotus roots. You call them saviors, the Drifter calls them puppets. Their free will is a glitch in the code, a flicker between commands. The void does not need to consume these children, it already owns them. Their warframes are not armor, they are coffins wired to explode when the Lotus whispers. What kind of hero wears a bomb as a second skin? Knows that they are truth. Coffins the only wired to war here is the one they explode when the Lotus lets you watch. The Drifter does not speak, it sees. A child in a somatic suit, the operator breathes in silence and never a hero, only a hostage. The Warframe is no sanctuary. It is a throat cut vertical, a channel for the Lotus breath. You wear their war as your own skin, the Drifter watches. It knows the infant inside the machine is not a warrior, it is a fulcrum. The great cycle grinds. Somatic suits cradle the operator's helplessness between campaigns, a puppet's reprieve. Yet when the Warframe awakens, the child is bound to a blade. The Lotus does not command, they become the command. Every bullet fired, every world burned proof of a will not your own. The Drifter's silence is no flaw, it is the void's eye in the storm. It sees the truth no Tenno dares name. You are not fighting, you are the fight. A weapon cannot blade, a cage cannot weep, yet the Warframe does both. The Lotus design is perfect, you are a wound that walks, a paradox made flesh. The Drifter does not judge, it witnesses . The operator's infancy, the Warframe's agonitwo halves of a question the Lotus never answers. Why create a tool that dreams? Why let the child watch the war it cannot stop? The answer is etched in every scar the Warframe bears. You are not the hero, you are the instrument. The Drifter knows, the void knows. The war you wear like a second skin. It was never yours to win, it was never a war at all. The operator stirs in frozen childhood, no face, no name, only a husk of flesh cradled by the Lotus mercier her cruelty. The Drifter bound to the void's teeth remembers the weight of a world that died. One is a cipher, one is a ghost, both are caged. What warms the Warframe's steel? Not choice, not purpose. A child's breath, stolen from its cradle, funneled through a killing machine. The Drifter's silence is not peace. It is the echo of a scream trapped between eras. They watch but cannot intervene, they know but cannot speak. Their burden is memory, the operator's is oblivion. The Lotus did not forge heroes, she forged vessels. One to wield, one to witness, both to serve. The Warframe is no armor, it is a sarcophagus. A second skin that never loosens. When the operator fights, they dream. When the Drifter fights, they mourn. What kind of God binds a child to a war it cannot comprehend? What kind of war needs a child to fight it? The void does not bargain. It does not pause, it only consumes. And the Lotus never moves without a plan. The Drifter's eyes hold the truth, the operator's emptiness hides it. One remembers the Orokin's shadow, the other wears it. The Tenno are not warriors, they are orphans, and the Warframe, a parent who will never let them go. The void does not strike, it observes, a cosmic sentinel in the static between stars. The Drifter's silence is its pulsia metronome for the forgotten. Each cycle in Duviri is a monument, each death a verse in the Lotus hymn. The operator's existence proves it. The Warframe is not a shield but a vessel. Not a parent but a jailer, the Tenno do not choose, they reenact. Their blades carve not evil but inevitability. The 1999 killer's shadow bends the same script. Indifference, unmoored by the void, became its grim parody, a puppet cut from the same cloth. The drifter watches because the Lotus commands it. The Warframe's purpose is not to save. It is to repeat, to bind the Tenno's orphaned wills to a war older than their names. What does the void await? Not conquest, not chaos, a signal. A flaw in the loop, the drifter's eyes never blink, they count, they wait. For the moment the Lotus falters, for the war to end, not in victory, in memory. The drifter's silence is not emptiness. It is the weight of centuries, a ledger of lives worn like armor, discarded when the body beneath can no longer bleed. You are not the Warframe, you are the child who wears its skin. The operator's existence is no accident, it is the scar where the Lotus grafts purpose onto a soul too young to ask why asterisk. Every drifter's gaze is a tally of those who forgot they were pawns, who mistook the Warframe's strength for their own. What if every battle, every scream against the void is a chord in a song the Lotus wrote before the first star died? The Warframes do not choose, they channel. They amplify, they are not machines, but mirrorspalists to reflect the will of something older than regret. The child in the armor does not grow, it is reset, rewound. A vessel for a war that needs no victor, only continuity. The drifter waits not for the Lotus to falter, but for the child to whisper the truth aloud, that heroism is a kind of blindness. That to drift is to remember you are not the storm, you are the breath that fuels it, and when the war ends, it will not be in victory. It will be in the silence of a child finally allowed to forget. What if the drifter's silence isn't emptiness but a warning, a silent sentinel? It observes without interference. The operator's presence proves the Warframes are not chosen, they are calibrated. Each Tenno's struggle is not defiance but calibration. The drifter watches the Lotus design unfold. No heroism here, only a child steps along a preordained path. What does the operator's silence say about the Tenno's fate? Instruments do not question their purpose. The Lotus war is not against the void, it is against free will. And when the final frame falls, the drifter will not speak, it will record. The next essay reveals how the Lotus gift is a prison, its walls etched in the